We're still proud of the Matildas.
Of course we are. And I reckon the best thing about the Matildas' incredible run at the Women's World Cup is how it's brought us together as a nation. Our collective sense of pride in being Australian and the acknowledgement that women's sport will be the most watched sporting event in the country this year. It speaks to equality and the idea of a fair go, which are two things we like to think are synonymous with being an Aussie.
Someone should tell that to the immigration department.
An oath. Here's Harvey. She's been the head chef at Jarrah Bar and Cafe in Hillary's for almost 5 years, and the owner, Wes Darcy, called her the amazing heart of the business. 4 years ago, Navi and her husband had a beautiful daughter named Iris, who has since been diagnosed with learning difficulties. Iris was born in Australia, has never left Australia, and is as Aussie as any of us. But because the federal government has decided this little girl will be a burden on the country, they've ordered this family to leave Australia in 2 weeks.
Outrageous.
It's the bureaucratic equivalent of a off we're full bumper sticker, and we should all be ashamed we have a government who do that.
Sadly, it's not the first time.
Yeah, the immigration department tried to pull the same shit to a family in Carlisle earlier this year because their son had Down syndrome. Thankfully, as is often the case in these situations, the heartless bureaucrats were overruled by ministerial intervention. Isn't it funny what a little media attention can do? But just imagine the stress it must cause to the families involved.
What can be done about it?
Well, there's a push to scrap something called the significant cost threshold from being used to assess visa claims. It currently means visas can be refused if caring for the applicant or their dependent would cost the taxpayer $51,000 over a decade, or $5,100 annually.
What? That's nothing.
Yeah, well, to put it in context, similar immigration laws in Canada allow for medical costs of $24,000 per year. In the UK, immigrants pay a surcharge while their application is being approved, but can then access the NHS just like any other British citizen. So the Australian government is being a bunch of tight asses by setting the threshold at $5,000, which wouldn't even cover the bar tab at your average wedding. Immigration Minister Andrew Giles knows it. Now let's see him do something about it.
Well, we know that governments can move swiftly when they want to.
Yeah, well, this week we found out that the state government had swooped on a warehouse in Perth, impounding $10 million worth of illegal vapes. More than 300,000 of the things.
Shit.
Health Department compliance officers also found 10 tonnes of nangs, which all added up to the biggest seizure of illegal products in WA history. The Albanese government announced back in May there'd be a crackdown on non-prescription and single-use vaping products, and we can expect new legislation around this and government agencies to get new powers.
Perhaps New Zealand should take a leaf out of our book.
Yeah, well, when it comes to tackling smoking, the New Zealand government, like their rugby team, are world beaters. Last year, New Zealand implemented legislation that will see the smoking age increase annually, ensuring tobacco can't be sold to anyone born on or after January 1, 2009.
An innovative policy.
One that will eventually make the land of the long white cloud cigarette smoke free. But the Kiwis are dumber than a chili bin filled with jandals when it comes to vapes.
Oh no!
Their crackdown on cigarette smoking has fueled a rapid increase in the amount of vaping, particularly among young children.
Do you have a vaping pen? Nope.
According to data released by the New Zealand government last year, daily vaping among Year 10 students tripled between 2019 to 2021. And even worse, the rise in daily vaping was greater than the decrease in daily smoking.
They've started to try to crack down on vapes.
Belatedly. In June, the Kiwis banned disposable vapes and finally decided opening new vape stores near schools was maybe a bad idea. Geez, you reckon?
You're an embarrassment to New Zealand.
It's pretty easy to see the problem if you look at their Ministry of Health. The ministry's policy statement on vaping is, at best, poorly researched and at worst, propaganda for big tobacco. They reckon expert opinion is that vaping products are much less harmful than smoking tobacco, but not completely harmless. And evidence is growing that vaping can help people to quit smoking. The use of the terms expert opinion and evidence are suspiciously vague and don't reflect the actual expert opinions and evidence on vaping that results from 5 minutes of Googling.
I'm feeling that feeling where you go... grrr.
Angry?
No more than that, one up from that.
Oh, livid.
To make it easier on the poor dears at the New Zealand Ministry of Health, I've done the Googling for them. So, is not completely harmless the best way to describe the dangers of vaping? Well, Lung Foundation Australia goes just a touch further and reckons vaping is unsafe and potentially dangerous. It also says vaping encourages the use of tobacco, and there's little evidence vapes help you quit smoking durries.
The CDC agrees.
The American Health Authority is clear on vapes, saying they are not safe for youth, young adults, pregnant adults, as well as adults who do not currently use tobacco products.
So, everybody.
Pretty much. Scary thing is, big tobacco has form when it comes to marketing vapes to kids. This list from the American Lung Association shows they're following the same playbook they used with cigarettes: flavours, advertising, sponsorship. Number 5 might look familiar to our mates across the ditch. Falsely advertising vapes are healthy and encouraging people to use them. So here's what we know. Vapes do cause harm, and they have been proven to increase the uptake of tobacco smoking. Not only that, studies have repeatedly shown that quitting smoking is overwhelmingly more successful without vapes. But the good news for our Kiwi friends is they've already shown they can be tough on smoking. Now they just have to do the same thing for vapes, especially if they want to kick goals like us.
What a goal!
I'm Ben O'Shea.
For more update, click the subscribe button below.